One lawyer made a name for himself taking on the system to even what he saw as an unfair society and settle some scores. But when the law didn't go his way, he took matters into his own hands. This week's episode is The Deliveryman Murders, Part 1, The Killings of Mark Angelucci and Daniel Anderl. Sinisterhood. Well, we'll talk about a little bit the end of part 2, but this has kind of come back up in the news again. And I think in general, it's never a bad time to shine a light on a thing like the men's rights movement that has its fair share of violent adherents.
It is a dark corner of the internet when you
really
have to start researching the manosphere and just, incels, people that like to use the word feminazi, just rolls off the tongue for them.
Yeah. And giving advice to people when their lives aren't great and they're the experts and saying that they're going to provide advice. I watched the Red Pill documentary as part of this, and that was made in 2016, 2017. And oh my God. It's like,
I haven't seen that. It honestly, I have to get in a certain headspace because they make me so enraged and scared and just overwhelmed that I have to really parse it out.
Yeah, certainly. I'll give Cassie J as the filmmaker that she's the director, and she's actually makes herself part of it and kind of learns along with the audience. And I think it's the thing with the men's rights is of course, not all of them are monsters, but one has to ask oneself, when you're accepting of those monsters into the crowd, then isn't it just one big group of monsters?
Do you mean not all the men's rights people are monsters, or not all men are monsters?
I think both. It's like a circle that comes down, right? And comes down and comes down. But then if you abide the calling women feminazis or hoes or girls or stuff, and you allow people like that to be part of your movement, to me, it diminishes the validity, the parts of the movement that are valid. And I think you have a fine argument, but
maybe I need to watch it because I'm like, your whole movement is built on bullshit. So maybe I need to watch it so I don't think they're all monsters.
It is fascinating. The ones that might have something interesting to say, but the guy we're talking about today, he had a lot to say, certainly, but I don't know that any of it was interesting or valuable, certainly.
No, definitely harmful, though. And like you said, it's coming back up, and a lot of re-victimization, which is so sad for the families.
There's a woman who just wrote a book, and I'll promise I'll get the name by part 2, but it's kind of the sexism online. And she said that they set up a brand new phone, brand new account, and said that they were a male teenager on TikTok. And she said within 30 minutes, anti-women, misogynistic, violent content started getting pushed to that. So I think we're seeing this back in 2008 up through 2020, how it was sort of starting to take shape, and now you have it being pushed algorithmically. So it's it's just getting worse.
Yeah. And the people pushing that, you got to ask, who controls these that's pushing you that stuff? Zuckerberg.
Dude, with that haircut, his ass is.
With his Julius Caesar haircut. Well, yeah, we're going to break this up into 2 parts because it's, when you're talking about incels, we could even do even more, but we can only take so much.
Yeah, your brain starts to feeling a little fried after a minute of reading all this.
It does. Well, I'm Christy.
I'm Heather.
And let's get into it. Roy Den Hollander was born in 1947 and raised in the suburban borough of Midland Park, New Jersey, a predominantly white middle-class community. He spent summers in the Catskill Mountains of upstate New York, a place that would later become symbolically significant. Den Hollander's autobiographical writings portray a disturbing childhood marked by a deeply dysfunctional relationship with his mother. One of his earliest memories, according to his own account, was when he walked into the kitchen to ask her what was for dinner. His mother turned to her 4-year-old son in anger and said,
"I wish I had listened to your father and never had you."
He claimed this sentiment was repeated throughout his childhood. He described a cold and emotionally abusive household, but did not indicate physical violence. This early rejection seemed to form the basis of a lifelong resentment toward women. He wrote disturbing passages about his youth, including inappropriate and sexualized comments about elementary school teachers and little girls, hints at a deeply warped perspective that likely began in childhood.
He did an interview with the Village Voice, I think in 2008 or 2010, and mentioned how, like, when he was 5, he saw a 1953 movie with Marilyn Monroe. Also in the article, he's like, I'm not going to tell you my age so I can pick up chicks. But when I was 5, I saw this movie, and the author wrote, this movie was released in 1953, like in parentheses. And I was like, that's what we're dealing with here as far as like.
But also good for that author.
Yeah, fuck yeah. But like, he talked about, like, I saw Marilyn Monroe's pillows. Like, he used the word pillows for her breasts. And just
a 5-year-old doesn't normally say that.
But that he revisited that memory up through into his 60s, that he was still talking about that in these interviews about how that's what he took away from the film.
Yeah.
Was the breasts of Marilyn Monroe.
Clearly a core memory if he's still remembering it 55 years later.
For sure.
But, you know, like with so many people that we've covered, you see that things start to terrible in their childhood. And, you know, the formative ages and all that, especially if it's with your mother, it does something to you. That doesn't give you the right or justify anything. It gives some context, though, and information about things we should try to prevent and stop so people like him don't get churned out.
Right. You're like, where was that initial like left turn? And it sounds like the fractured mother relationship certainly is part of it.
Yeah. Having your mom tell you, I wish I had listened to your father and never had you, which means now both your parents don't want you, is beyond the pale. I mean, Simon's 4. I can't imagine in my wildest dreams looking at his little face and saying something like that.
For sure.
Intellectually gifted, Den Hollander, after initially dropping out of college several times, eventually earned multiple advanced degrees from prestigious institutions. After receiving his BA, he obtained a law degree from George Washington University Law School in 1985. After a year with the U.S. Department of Treasury Honor Program, working in the office of the Chief Counsel of the Internal Revenue Service, he started at the prestigious law firm of Cravath, Swaine, and Moore in New York in 1986. He worked in their transactional practice for 3 years before embarking on a solo career.
And like honors programs with any federal government, the SEC, the IRS, that's the top of the class. Generally, you do well. And getting an offer at Cravath is like the literal scale. Like Cravath is such a prestigious firm that other law firms, when I worked at Weil, we were a Cravath scale firm, which meant our salaries lockstep program or whatever but we weren't, it's not called the Weil scale. Like we're not, the place I worked was not that famous. So the fact that he worked here, but then only 3 years to go solo is very strange for big law, in my opinion. That's normally you're going to go 3 to 5 years and then go in-house at like a big corporation or go back to the government where you had your honors program. So I want to know, and I believe the American lawyer said a spokesperson for Cravath did not return our question for comment about his time there. Did not. I want to know what happened there.
Yeah. And if you're immediately going into a solo practice, you probably don't work well with others and you want to work for yourself and make all the shots and calls. But yeah, after 3 years, you're not going to have the clients to even do that. So there's definitely a story there. That's
what I feel. But and this is coming from a person, not to denigrate solo attorneys. I was a solo attorney.
My dad was a solo attorney, but he also worked at a firm and, you know, for the state for a long time before that.
Neither your dad nor I went on this track either that we're about to see.
No, they did not. As a young adult, Den Hollander was politically active on the opposite end of the spectrum from where he would land later in life. He was involved in the far-left Students for a Democratic Society, joined IRA protests in the UK, supported Judge McGorvin's presidential campaign, and participated in labor union activities. He romanticized drug use and the counterculture, writing in a style reminiscent of Hunter S. Thompson. However, this freewheeling image coexisted with signs of a fragile ego, impulsivity, and volatility in relationships. During the 90s, Den Hollander worked abroad as a private investigator in Russia. It was here where he met and married a young woman named Alina S. on March 11, 2000. The brief and acrimonious marriage ended in divorce, which he portrayed as a pivotal moment in his transformation into a men's rights crusader. Nicholas Mundy, the divorce attorney for his ex-wife, described Den Hollander as
the Terminator.
Relentless and fixated. He was known to harass opponents, misuse the court system, and inundate people with legal threats. Well, he sounds like a real fucking pain in the ass.
I mean, a huge one. On the 48 Hours episode about this, they interview a buddy of his. I say buddy of his. I'm sure the guy would be like, we were not buddies.
We barely knew him.
No, but he talks about his time in Russia, and the colleague was like, he always wanted to go to the bars. He was always talking about picking up chicks and wanting to pick up chicks. And it's just a person, I feel like, who was stuck in this like almost 50s movie mindset where you like thought that you're supposed to talk to people that way and then would get rejected, and rather going like, perhaps it's a different approach I should take. It would be like, it's the chicks who are wrong.
Yeah. And there's, something to be said about he is also in another country, marries a woman and is like, oh, this is for love. Well, it wasn't. And instead of, like you said, reflecting upon himself, he's just like, all any Russian women want are green cards and they're gold diggers and all the other things you can call someone. It's interesting, though, that you said the 50s mindset, and he watched that movie, came out in 1955.
1953, yeah.
Yeah, so it is like
what it is real quick.
This, that sounds like where he kind of emotionally stunted as far as his opinion towards women.
Like at age 5, that's whenever you got like locked in. It was gentlemen prefer blondes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they don't all.
No, right?
I'm looking at a brunette right now. So.
Hey, and also the blondes don't always prefer gentlemen. So maybe get that in your head.
That is also true. Very true. And also a lot of blondes aren't, hair is dyed. So
what are you talking about?
Den Hollander accused his ex-wife of manipulating him for immigration purposes and filed lawsuits under civil RICO statutes, further developing a narrative in which women, especially foreign women, exploited legal systems for the detriment of men.
And it's linked in the sources. I found his lawsuit against his wife and the decisions that, would be published in these things. And you can tell that the court's almost just like, how do we deal with this lawsuit? Because it is full of this narrative that almost reads like a crime novel that's like, she was and I'm going to use the term that he used, which we don't use this term. We would say they're sex workers, but he's like, she's a Russian prostitute and a hoe. And she worked with these topless clubs she was having sex with a Chechen warlord. And like, you can just tell that the court decisions, like, we are really even taking all the facts to the best, in the light most favorable to the plaintiff, like, this does not fit RICO. Like, this doesn't fit anything that he's talking about. And so he would continually get what 12B6 is, what is the federal rule of civil procedure, which is failure to state a claim. He would just get 12B6 like constantly, where courts are just like, this isn't really anything.
They're like, you need to blog about this because this doesn't belong here. Also, it's very unprofessional the way you have written all of this.
Yes, it was literally like, is this your fanfic that you turned into us? Because this has like a federal stamp.
You put hoe in a legal document?
Yeah. So he was coming unglued like pretty early. And I mean, I think the courts are just like, we don't know what to do with this. Our problem is just literally getting it out of here. Yeah.
Also the blanket ideology of, well, if it happened to me, then all men experience this from all foreign women.
And it might tell us something that I believe his wife availed herself of the Violence Against Women Act, which can be used to assist people who have immigrated to the United States and suffered domestic violence in their immigration journey. And so he called it the Female Fraud Act. But I'm like, what did you do to her? Why would she qualify for the Violence Against Women Act? And like, you look at that person and look into his eyes, and I'm like, he's hit a woman. I can tell.
Yes. I mean, the emotional abuse alone.
Speaking that way.
Yeah. Men's rights advocates, or MRAs, form a subset of the broader, quote, manosphere, a loosely connected online subculture that perceives society as increasingly biased against men. These groups, including MRAs, Men Going Their Own Way, or MGTOW, and incels, often oppose feminism and women's legal and societal gains. Initially centered on issues like paternity rights and family law, the movement has increasingly adopted extremist rhetoric, portraying men as victims of systemic discrimination and blaming feminism for their grievances.
And like that's kind of like the umbrella is men's rights. And unfortunately, within that, you have like men's lib who might want to encourage men to heal from toxic masculinity. Men cry too, vulnerability is strength. But it's like you're unfortunately under the umbrella with like MGTOW, which is you shouldn't get married ever. Women are to be avoided. They're going to trap you. Feminism ruin the court systems. The only way to get women is by tricking them, by negging them, by using pickup artists. So it's one thing if you're like, I'm all for people connecting with their feelings. I'm all for making laws that treat people fairly. But it's like if you're at a table with 10 people and a Nazi sits down and you start talking with them, you have 11 Nazis at the table. It's like, if you let those people stand under your umbrella, more of them are going to come. And then now you're kind of holding an umbrella with a bunch of psychos.
Yeah. It's up to, like we talked about in the Freaky Friday that came out on Wednesday. So also thank you all for being patient with our flip-flop. But that you see something, you say something. You can't wait for if, like the man at the bowling alley. Don't wait until some shits happen.
Right.
If you're one of the good ones and somebody sits down and is like, talk about those hoes. The only way that you're going to land one of them is if you tell them how stupid they are. It's like, y'all better all fucking step up and say something, or else the hill you're trying to die on with your own cause, I'm not buying that you really believe in that.
Right. I think it definitely weakens the arguments of like, we should have fairer paternity laws or fairer whatever. That's fine. And those are valid in a lot of ways. But if then the person standing next to you is also like, get rid of the whores, people are like, I don't know, that paternity guy's kind of crazy. And it's like, they really have to separate themselves. Yeah.
It hurts your cause just as much as society as a whole.
Sinisterhood will be right back. Helix Sleep is a premium mattress brand that provides tailored mattresses based on your unique sleep preferences.
You know what my unique sleep preference is?
I know what mine is.
To do it as much as possible.
Hell yeah. And I was like, sleeping on a Helix is mine.
And I get to do that with such sound sleep on my Helix because I'm not just saying this because we're getting paid to. It's legitimately the most comfortable mattress I've ever had in my life. And I think I'm just a Helix girl from now until the last mattress I own.
Certainly. I don't want to fuck with anything else. There's no need to. I've stayed at the finest hotels down to the worst motels and everything in between. And I can say that even when my old law firm paid for me to stay at a 5-star hotel, it was dog shit compared to my Helix mattress. And I get to sleep on this baby every single night of my life. So why would I wait for one day when I might could go stay at a luxury hotel and I'm not even going to have as good of a time as I do on my own mattress at home? It's comfortable. My back doesn't hurt. I go to sleep right away. It solved all of the things that I was struggling with. It's amazing. It's magical.
You are tracking things on your Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or anything like that, it's real fun to watch all that sleep numbers go up. And it's like, I'm doing something for my health by just sleeping and being cozy better and comfy.
And it's easy to deliver. Every part about it is, it's easy to set up and it feels great. The cooling part of it, we've talked enough about it, but we couldn't talk enough. There's nothing else to say except it's the fucking best sleep of my life.
It is. Go to helixsleep.com/creepy for their Memorial Day sale. May 12th, 2025 through June 1st, 2025, and get 27% off site-wide, plus a free bedding bundle, sheet set, and mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. Oh my gosh, this is the most that they've ever done.
I love a deal. That's helixsleep.com/creepy for their Memorial Day sale, May 12th, 2025 through June 1st, 2025, and get 27% off site-wide, plus that free bedding bundle. You're going to get a sheet set, mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order.
Den Hollander embraced this ideology fully. His writings, spanning thousands of pages, painted women as manipulative oppressors and feminists as enemies of civilization. He described women as
the real oppressors,
often using slurs like
feminazis,
and advocating for retributive violence against what he called a feminist-controlled society. Buddy, I got some news for you. This society I've been a part of ain't never been controlled by feminists, because I'd be a lot happier if it was.
I'm like, I think that more Fortune 500 CEOs would be women if we were in control.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
I'm
There'd
like,
be
I think
more
it's
people
like,
in office and
like, you mean like president?
Yeah. And I was also thinking earlier when we were talking earlier about what he wrote in his lawsuit and how crazy it is to use those types of words and language. It very much reminded me of the current president, who I just watched rake over the coals a male journalist, but just in a White House Oval Office press conference saying, you're so stupid. You shouldn't even be a reporter. Do you know how stupid you are? And it's like, you are a grown man that is in charge, unfortunately, of this country, and you're speaking like this. You sound like somebody on the playground that got their feelings hurt because you didn't want to play their game. It's so embarrassing. And he would use these exact same words. He's also a convicted felon and rapist. So,
Yeah. I mean, those kind of things where you're talking like a child and or just like a emotionally unwell person, that I'm like, if you're so emotionally unwell that you can't perhaps state your legal argument or state your issue in a cogent, rational, devoid of emotion way, I'm like, you are too emotional to be in charge of anything.
Yeah. Yes. And if you can't do your professional job in a professional manner and speak to people like they're peers and colleagues, not like they're your child who's done something wrong, then you don't get that position, because that's not how anybody should speak to anybody, but especially the president to another grown person who's just doing their job and trying to get answers. I've gone off on a tangent now, but it's just kind of another example of these men that have grown up believing that they're in charge and that women are beneath them and that you can grab them by the pussy and then you're put as the leader of the United States. So worked out for him.
It certainly undercuts the idea that like feminazis are the real oppressors, given the leader of the free world, certainly.
Yeah.
And his relationship.
And the fact that his bestie is an actual Nazi. So
yeah. Wild.
Soon, Den Hollander became notorious in the media for filing eccentric lawsuits, such as challenging ladies' night drink specials and suing Columbia University over women's studies courses, claiming that the MBA he obtained from the institution in 1997 gave him standing to sue. These lawsuits gained him appearances on Fox News, MSNBC, and even the Corbell Report in 2011, where he was often treated as a comic figure, though his views were far from funny and marked by extreme misogyny.
I want to go through these appearances real quick, because on Fox News, Neil Cavuto was like, okay, man, you're a little bit too. When he would make these statements like girls are making more money than guys, Neil Cavuto's like, oh, really? So I'm like, you're now platforming a person who's openly saying untrue things. And also he goes, if a guy takes a women's studies course, what's going to happen to him? The girls in the class are basically going to walk all over them in their stiletto heels, which may not be too bad. And Neil Cavuto's like,
shout out to everyone that's got a minor in women's studies, myself included, and I never once wore stiletto heels to class. I don't think I've worn them ever in my life.
No.
So didn't do that. Were there guys in any of my classes? Sure, I'm sure there were, but I have no memory of any of them being treated unfairly or being made fun of. No. I'm sure everyone was like, good for you.
Right. Well, but Den Hollander thought that feminism was a religious belief system and that it was unconstitutional that this religious belief system was being taught. And he said, women are a suspect class. Every time they open their mouths, I begin to suspect something. And I'm like,
is he writing a type 5? What is this?
Thank you. I said, okay, fucking Rodney Dangerfield. Yeah. Like, what are you doing? But Neil Cavuto had him on there. IndieWire made him Bachelor of the Year. They made, like, ironically, making fun of him. The Village Voice, again, like, interviewed him and, like, had the comments about him taking hip-hop classes. And he's like, I love a lot of young ladies in one place. There's generally only one heterosexual man, and it's me. I take the class to meet chicks. I don't take the class because I think I'm a dancer. And then one had, like, 80 women in it. And he said, that's better than what Osama bin Laden offers, and you don't have to die for them.
Oh, my God.
And, like, people are just like, and, like, writing. And, like, they publish it as, like, a joke because he's obviously is a joke. But underneath it all, he's also saying violent things.
Yes.
And, like, that's what on the Colbert Report, which we linked it in the show notes. You can watch the clip. Someone's, like, pulled it and put it on Streamable. He says, maybe I'm suffering from PMS, persecuted male syndrome, which gets a huge laugh, and that's fine. He's talking about, like, the case, like, got kicked, whatever. He also calls his ex-wife a prostitute and a hoe several times. And then he says, let's just get 100,000 armed guys in DC. I'm willing to go down with you guys. Let's go. On the Colbert Report. And then they joke at the end, and he's like, I'm currently single. And Colbert's like, he's available. And they're all laughing and joking. And I'm like,
Steven.
That's what I'm saying. And I'm like, I get it that he's saying ridiculous stuff. He goes, I don't know why I'm doing all this. Maybe I'm a Libra. It's because I'm a Libra. What?
Oh, man.
But, like, the fact that he said in that Colbert Report, like, essentially he predicted January 6th.
Yeah, I was about to say, that happened, buddy.
Yes.
Were you there?
And then in a 2013 interview with the New York Daily News, he said, quote, I'm beginning to think it's time for vigilante justice, civil disobedience. I may pull a Carrie Nation on the ladies' nightclubs. Carrie Nation died in 1911. She was a radical member of the temperance movement who vandalized bars with a hatchet. So he is indicating he's going to go to these bars with a hatchet. So it's like this guy is repeatedly saying these things. And every article you find, he was like treated like a joke, like a bemused attachment, like this guy.
Even if it's like, oh, clearly he's joking. Not everybody, one, thinks that. But again, you're giving a platform to someone who it's nothing he's saying is funny. It's all dangerous and hate fueled. So why even give him a platform at all? Because any press is good press, and it gets his name out there more and, you know, just emboldens him. I'm very disappointed in Stephen Colbert.
I know. Well, I mean, and you think back at the time, it's like when I first watched it, that's the let's go down to DC, like didn't stick out to me. And I watched it again because I was like, Paris goes, what are you doing? And I was like, spoiler alert, watching the subject of this week's episode. And he's like, on Colbert? And I was like, that's how, I mean, it makes sense because the whole idea of Colbert was that they satirically framed right-wingers as like awesome and showing that they're very clearly not. But I think when they're making statements like we all need to get 100,000 of us need to get arms and go down to DC, now we know at least you have to take that seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. These are, I mean, they're threats. And it's kind of the same attitude of stalking. Like, well, he's just saying anything. He doesn't do anything. He's like, well, he's referenced twice enacting violence on groups of people. So do we want to wait until he takes a hatchet to a bar, or do we want to go ahead and do something about it now?
Put him on some kind of list. One of the last things he said on Colbert was, I'm going to fight the feminists until my last dollar, my last breath. And if there's anything after death, I will fight them for eternity.
Bitch, you have no idea what's going to greet you on the other side.
Yeah, it looks like fucking hell. And then they close the segment out. It looks like a David Lynch film. It's just him dancing alone. Like, I guess the moves from his hip hop class. It's so disturbing. And he's dancing and they're just playing ladies' night over it.
And ladies, yes, I'm currently single. He's available.
And it's such a chilling video to watch in retrospect.
Yeah.
But I think also just going forward, when we see these people platformed and kind of go, what a fucking goofball. This guy's such a dorky loser because he can't get a chick at a bar. Yeah, but also, what else are they capable of?
Yeah, but
because they're being like,
anybody can go get a gun. And they're not, nobody's laughing when they walk into a mall and
or a club.
Take everybody out. So we'll save that for part 2, but yes, it's heinous. And this might not be as mainstream on mainstream media now as it once was, but it is all over the internet, these same beliefs still. And like you found out, being pushed to 13 to 15-year-old young boys.
And you just saw, is it Charlie Kirk that's doing a campus tour? And Jordan Klepper on The Daily Show recently did a really good like face-to-face with college-age young men who are getting swept up in manosphere, Charlie Kirk kind of stuff, to kind of talk to them of like, why are you following this? And they're like, I never know what to say in an argument. And so I just listen to what Charlie Kirk says. And then Klepper's like, and then you just sort of can parrot back what he says. And the guy's like, yeah, I just memorize his arguments and then I know what to say. And it's like, so, and he goes, because the media is trying to program me. And Klepper's like, so you don't want to be programmed by the media. You want to be programmed by someone else.
But you're going to repeat exactly what somebody else says. And also not really understand what you're saying. Anyone can memorize some lines, but to understand what is really behind that, I don't think most of them fully get. It's just, we don't have any place that we feel like we belong. This guy's, hyping us up and giving us a place to belong. So let's all hang out and just talk about how shitty dumb hoes are.
I mean, literally. And where we can finally speak the truth or we can finally say what we want to say without being policed. And it's like, we're just trying to like, that's a lot of air quotes I just did because I want to be clear. I'm not saying that. But that's like this argument of like, I want to be able to say the R word again. I'm like, please stop. No one wants to bring that back. Listen, a ton of us said it back in the day, but we don't like, you know what I mean? Like kids, teenagers in the 90s. But when we find out something is harmful and hurtful, we don't say that anymore.
And ask yourself, why do you want that to come back so bad? And anytime I see somebody saying that, it all gets drawn back to, well, the liberal snowflakes and woke media are taking words from us. And it's like, I think maybe we're just growing as a society and learning that like these words have a lot of meaning to them and hurt. So we're not going to say the R word. We're not going to say the N word. We're calling women sex workers. Like we all have changed the language to as the times evolve. So, because the idea is we all want to feel safe and like we have rights and that we all belong here and not that one group is in charge of everybody.
It's kind of like you're allowed to say those things, but then you have to suffer the social consequences of it, which is this this separateness that comes from it. Yeah. Sinisterhood will be right back. If your dog could talk, they would warn you about what's lurking in their bowl. They might not want some mass-produced kibble that's unappetizing and mashed together and just crunchy, gross, whatnot, with God knows what is inside of it. But there's a solution.
There is a solution. If our dogs could talk, we got to get on tour stat because we got to take them around the globe. And if they're going to talk about Ollie Pet, for sure. But I also want to know what else they got to say.
Some hot takes.
Ollie is here to crack the case on pet nutrition with fresh, human-grade meals made with the highest quality ingredients. There's no mystery meats. There's no artificial junk. It's just real, minimally processed food made right here in U.S. kitchens. It's the kind of clean eating that keeps tails wagging and noses sniffing for more.
How it works? Fill out Ollie's 30-second quiz, and they'll create a customized meal plan based on your pup's weight, activity level, and other health info. Then get expert recommendations. Ollie crunches the numbers and recommends the right recipes and daily portions for your precious pup based on hundreds of thousands of real dog results. Then get your welcome kit. For any first-timers, Ollie will send your pup's first box with 2 weeks worth of meals and a guide on how to gradually switch them over to their new diet. Finally, you can customize your plan. Ollie offers 3 meal plans to choose from, so you can choose between a full fresh plan, a fresh topper plan, or a mixed plan with their freshly baked recipes for your special fur baby. They also have treats and supplements, which both Kate and Buffy and the Goose all love. Ollie is the only fresh dog food that comes with unlimited routine health screenings, so you can get your pup on track to living their healthiest, happiest life.
Oh man, Kate loves her treats. She loves the food. I love that it came with the pup tainer and the scoop. So you just take the frozen meal, you just set it right in the pup tainer. It's the exact size for it, so you don't have to worry about any mess.
Mess.
And then it just thaws and they get to eat it right out of that. I love things that come with stuff that's exactly what it's for.
Mhm.
So
I'm
it's
like-
already all taken care of for you. It makes the whole process just streamlined and easy.
I'm like, you're thoughtful with execution. I know you're thoughtful with the rest of the product, and it makes me feel better. Thank you. Dogs deserve the best, and that means fresh, healthy food. Head to ollie.com/creepy and tell them all about your dog and use code creepy to get 60% off your welcome kit when you subscribe today.
Plus, they offer a happiness guarantee on the first box. So if you're not completely satisfied, you'll get your money back. That's OLLIE.com/creepy and enter code creepy to get 60% off your first box. Around the 2016 Trump campaign, Den Hollander's alignment with right-winged ideology intensified. He sued several media outlets, including CNN, NBC, and the New York Times, alleging biased reporting against then-candidate Trump under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, or RICO.
This man RICO'd everybody.
Shocking that he was a Trumper.
And the Trump campaign came out and said, we don't recall this man. We don't know who he was. So they tried to distance, like, damn, I'm like, the Trump campaign tried to distance itself from you. But he RICO'd everybody. And I was like, you don't. I felt like, what is it? The Princess Bride. I don't think that word means what you think it means. I'm like, that statute, you are using it wrong in every time. Because
you can just
always
declare bankruptcy.
Yes.
You can just declare it. It's like, this isn't how these things work.
Yeah, he's like, he's yelling out for Rico. And some guy's like, yeah, my name's Rico. I work here. What? He's like, Rico, go after this guy. And he's like, that's not my job at all. I'm an accountant, actually.
Didn't you go to law school?
Barely.
Den Hollander also held a bitter rivalry with fellow men's rights attorney Mark Angelucci, who was gaining national attention for a similar selective service lawsuit. Some insiders suggested Den Hollander felt overshadowed by Angelucci, whose version of the litigation was seeing more success.
And then Mark was featured in that Red Pill documentary in a positive light as part of like actually fighting for real legal issues versus kind of the more incel type, in which they don't actually really even talk about incel in the documentary. But the key differences was Angelucci filed with a man who wanted not to have to register for the selective service, which is what makes you eligible for the draft, versus Den Hollander had a woman who was, the cognizable legal argument is like difficult when it's like, well, I'm not required to do this thing. So the courts are like, okay, so what are you suing for? And she's like, well, I want to be required to do a thing. And they're like, you could voluntarily do that though. So why are we here? So I think Den Hollander was not going at it in the same legal way. Similarly, his legal argument was very like clouded by ideology, rambling, versus Angelucci was very focused on this post 2013 shift in the military that occurred that was like actually pulling from reality. And Den Hollander was just like, it's not fair. It's not fair. Yeah. It's not fair. And so when you see somebody who's doing better than you, I'm sure it, and also not only that, when he's featured in the media, it's like taken very seriously. And Mark Angelucci is fighting for the rights of these men and fighting for people who need a voice. And it's like, Den Hollander, look at him do this goofy dance on the Colbert Report. I imagine that would probably cause you some internal strife.
For sure. I think he operated at a consistent 10 of anger and hate. So it didn't take much for something else to get piled onto that or set him off.
No, certainly.
In 2019, Den Hollander was diagnosed with terminal cancer. Facing his mortality, he escalated from legal action to planning acts of vengeance. His online writings turned more violent and apocalyptic. He often fantasized about using firearms, wrote about shooting people, and referred to women as, quote, witches or feminazis in his so-called evolutionarily correct cyclopedia, a manifesto laced with racist and misogynistic ideology. He became increasingly active in extremist online communities like Humanity versus Feminism and MGTOW forums on Facebook, where he became even more radicalized.
Yeah, I mean, all of his writings were just like, a man has a right to kill those who would destroy him. And it kind of became this like us versus them. And the only way to fix them is to end them. And whoever the them was quote, the ones who plotted my destruction from birth, the ones who smiled so sweetly through their ruby red lips, dames.
AKA my mother, who I have a fucked up relationship with, and it's fucked me up for the rest of my life.
I mean, whenever you dedicate it to Mother, may she burn in hell, you sort of showed your cards, and we kind of know what's going on, buddy. And I'm like, men will do anything but go to therapy. No offense to them. Our men that we love and will go to therapy.
Tommy's
but
in
it's
therapy every week.
Hell yes. I mean, but it's like, this is what your choice. You could have unraveled these things within you. You
could, but he grew up in a time when that didn't happen. Men were considered weak if they, even talked about stuff like that. They were the man of the house, the breadwinner, all these things.
Protector, provider, all that stuff. Yeah.
And he didn't have a positive male role model. Obviously, his dad didn't even want him. So when you have both parents who suck shit, you're kind of doomed from the start. And unfortunately, and it really would take someone stepping into your life or some epiphany happening where you're like, I have got to do a 180 and it's up to me to pull myself out of this and go get therapy and help. But that's a really hard thing for most people to do. And when you're already have this type of like hate-fueled ideology, I can't think of any instance where that has happened.
I mean, and it's to be compassionate as I can be to this person, when they are very isolated, when someone like Roy Den Hollander is very isolated and their only support system is a MGTOW forum on Facebook that tells you women are there to take from you. They only want to take, they want to get. And I'm sure if you share your writings with these people and your writings say something like, quote, to mitigate age, chase pretty young ladies. Nothing like perky pillows and firm booties to keep a man's hormones bubbling.
Oh my God.
Looking and feeling younger. Like your share, like
my
if you
stomach just turned.
Barf me to death. Like almost all of them, it's like
perky pillows just made me feel a way that I don't know that I've ever felt before.
Just, do I need to popple the popple?
I hate it so much.
I'm gonna popple in.
Yeah, it's like this weird, almost like hustler verbiage.
Yeah, like I said, like these weird 50s like letter to penthouse kind of stuff.
Yeah, like horny type of weird out of touch terms, and just I mean, honestly, when you just said that, I could see the Hunter S. Thompson connection.
Yeah,
just kind of that. Like, so if he idolized him and tried to write like him, but less about drugs and more about how shitty women were, then yeah, he's kind of nailing that.
Yeah, I mean, any of the stuff from his writing, it just shows like an entitlement. He's like, as a man, I have a constitutional right to what I want. Women do not.
What constitutional? Which one is that? What number?
I don't. He couldn't name it, but he did say it should be acceptable for me to respond with violence against anyone who would get in the way of what I want.
So, including men, if that's anyone.
So. Yeah, he said, I cannot do this because women want me instead to do what they want because it benefits them. Women don't deserve what they want. I deserve what I want. Men should violently retaliate against women and everything they advocate for.
That is, I think, maybe in 2025, I don't know, you tell me, writing stuff like that would hopefully get somebody knocking at your door. Because you're trying to embolden a bunch of people to go kill a bunch of women?
One would hope. The question is, given that the current head of the FBI is so inept that he could not submit a usable budget proposal to Congress.
Yes, I saw that.
And just got like sweaty and was like, I did my best. And they're like, your best is not good enough. Like your job is to fucking give us a budget. This is crazy business.
Like, when will you have it? He's like, I don't know. And they're like, you literally can't give us a date? No, I don't know.
No, so in the past, the FBI would go and investigate things like this. So then the question is, who's going to knock on doors with somebody who's writing like this? Because they weren't knocking on his door in 2017,
That's
2018,
true.
2019 when he was writing these things.
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like, a couple decades ago, people would have, or the administration would have been more up in arms about something like this than they are now. But now he might be considered a hero and get a spot in the Oval Office for that press conference.
They'll give him a job.
With repeated professional failures and a shortened life expectancy, Den Hollander's rhetoric darkened. He began directing particular vitriol toward female judges, whom he accused of bias and incompetence. His online writings revealed fantasies about violence, including against those presiding over his cases. One such target was U.S. District Judge Esther Salas, who dismissed part of his 2015 lawsuit challenging the male-only military draft, Husel versus Selective Service System, the same year of his cancer diagnosis. Den Hollander's resentment was not just legal, but personal. He wrote disturbing commentary about Salas, at times both sexualizing and demonizing her, calling her, quote, hot, and suggesting he wanted to ask her out while simultaneously portraying her as a, quote, ladder climber, trading on her Latina heritage.
You know this pissed him off, the fact that the judge not only was a woman, but also not white.
Yeah, oh, yes.
What does that tell us? Why are you focused on the fact that she's Latina?
Yeah.
Why does that bother you?
I mean, he could probably show you several chapters of his manifesto that would give you some insight. Esther Salas was born on December 29th, 1968, in Monterey Park, California, to a Cuban mother and a Mexican father. Her parents immigrated to the U.S. in the late 1950s, seeking a better future for their 5 children, of which Esther was the youngest. At the age of 5, following her parents' separation, due in part to domestic violence, her mother moved the family to Union City, New Jersey, to live with relatives. Life in Union City was marked by hardship. When Esther was 10, a fire destroyed their apartment, forcing them to move in with relatives. Living quarters were cramped, with 11 people sharing one small apartment. Despite the instability, young Esther took on adult responsibilities early. Fluent in both Spanish and English, she served as her mother's translator during visits to the welfare office and helped advocate for her family's needs, a formative experience that ignited her desire to work in law and public service.
It's such a story for a lot of kids of parents whose native language is not English, that at 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you might be responsible for explaining a diagnosis to your mom at the doctor's office, or saying, we're not going to be able to make rent this month because this check's not going to come through. And you get the news before your mom and also have to translate it for her.
No, it's a horrible position to be in. And this is a good example of someone else that had hardship growing up, but they turned out to be a wonderful person that did great things for the world. So just because you have a hard childhood does not mean that you have to end up a piece of shit. Of course, their situations were different, but she witnessed domestic violence. Her mom luckily got them out of there. Living with 10 other people in a small apartment. I mean, zero privacy. It's just, but she overcame it. And, you know, I'm always just like in awe and admire people that can come up like that and not let it keep them where they were. They're like, I'm getting out of here and I'm doing better.
Like, I'm going to do it for you, Mama. I'm going to, make you proud for sure.
Raising her children on her own, Esther's mother supported her children through multiple jobs, working as a child caretaker, cleaning offices at night, and cutting fabric in the needlepoint industry. She never spent money on herself, instead prioritizing rent, food, and education. Her strength, discipline, and commitment to service left an indelible mark on Esther, who would later say,
"My mother is the strongest person I've ever met. Tough as nails, but very respectful." And she, Judge Salas did an interview where she talked about her mom said in Spanish, but the English translation was, "You are not better than anyone else, but no one else is better than you." And she said that just got ingrained into me as a kid, like over and over. My mom would be like, "Do not let anyone talk to you that way on the playground, but do not go and talk to people in a disrespectful way on the playground. Like, you're not better than them, but guess what? They're not better than you." And I was like, damn. And you see how something like that really instills like strength, resilience, and the ability to see people in the justice system, as we're about to see, and see where can I help? Because just because I'm a judge, I'm not better than you.
Yeah. I'm going to have to start using that.
I'm going to steal it. Thanks, Judge Salas. We're stealing it. Sinisterhood will be right back. Attention renters. If you haven't heard of Bilt, you're about to thank us. Earn your favorite airline miles and hotel points through Bilt. just by paying your rent on time. Let us explain.
There's no cost to join, and just by paying rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and more. When you pay rent through Bilt, you unlock 2 powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent. Every month, no matter where you live or who your landlord is, your rent now works for you. Second, you gain access to exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city.
Bilt's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, free mats or towels at your favorite fitness studios, and unique experiences that only Bilt members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Bilt points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning your rent can literally take you places. So if you're not earning points on rent, our question is, what are you waiting for?
Start paying rent through Bilt and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbilt.com/creepy.
That's joinbilt.com/creepy. Make sure to use our URL so they know we sent you. Joinbilt.com/creepy to sign up for Bilt today.
The first in her family to graduate from college, Esther graduated from Rutgers University in 1991 with a BA in political science, followed by a JD from Rutgers Law School, Newark, in 1994. At Rutgers Law, she participated in the Minority Student Program, a foundation that would help launch her legal career. After law school, Salas clerked for Judge Eugene J. Cody Jr. on the New Jersey Superior Court. She then joined the law firm Garces and Grabler, where she gained trial experience. From 1997 to 2006, she served as an assistant federal public defender for the District of New Jersey, representing indigent clients in federal court. Her work there earned her a reputation as a smart, prepared, and compassionate advocate.
She told a really interesting story about trying to get her first job at a law firm and how she just had her resume. And she said, I put on my one suit I had and I went out and I was going like where all the law firms are located on this one street. And she's like, I was just like knocking and being like, can I get an interview? And she said at one place she was speaking to the receptionist and was like, the receptionist said the partner's not available. And she's like, I was just making conversation with the receptionist. I was like, oh, no worries. Here's my resume. Da, 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 da. And she said, we were having this conversation and a door opened and it was the hiring partner. And he was like, come in my office.
Oh.
And he was just like, I like how you're speaking to my receptionist. Like, I like the respect that you treat everybody with, because as a former receptionist myself, people are often fucking shitty to you and want to denigrate you, okay, little girl, like,
especially in the legal industry.
Yeah. 100%. And so to have, I guess, just to hear somebody that young treating a person, everybody deserves respect, but treating a person who's generally shitted upon in a kind way. I mean, it got her first job and it's like, there's a lesson from mama.
Yeah. And good on that hiring partner to encourage treating everybody the same.
And that, I think that makes you a very good federal public defender, because you're not like, you can't even afford a lawyer. I guess I'll help you, to be like, everybody deserves zealous advocacy.
And when you grow up with hardship, I think you're more compassionate towards that in others when you're in a position of power to help them.
She sounds like an unqualified ladder climber to me. It's like you hear this person's background and you're like, sir, what the fuck?
Yeah, no, it's you can't even make sense of it. Because it is senseless.
No,
it's just hate.
No, my eyes roll back so far in my head, they've become stuck.
In 2006, Salas made history when she was appointed as a U.S. magistrate judge, becoming the first Latina to hold that position in New Jersey. Her commitment to community and the legal system was widely recognized. She served as president of the Hispanic Bar Association of New Jersey and on multiple state Supreme Court committees focused on women and minorities in the legal profession. Her historic trajectory continued in 2011 when President Barack Obama nominated her to the U.S. District Court for the District of New Jersey. Upon Senate confirmation, she became the first Latina U.S. District Court judge in the state's history.
And like, you're confirmed by the Senate, like you're nominated by the president. Again, it's not like there were some back alley handshake deals. It's like, this is a deeply qualified person who ascended to a rightful position as a federal judge, like by virtue of her career and hard work.
No, but he's like, who'd she sleep with to get this position?
No, and him writing like, I thought I was going to ask her out, but then I thought I might be held in contempt. I'm like you think this highly qualified woman on the bench would look twice at you other than the fact that you're an attorney before her court and she's going to treat you with respect. And that is what she's given in return, is the disrespect of the sexualization of her, despite wearing a robe. Like, what do you even say?
Yeah.
She's a hot and spicy Latina. Like, what is wrong with you?
It's just that tearing every woman down that he comes across, especially ones that are clearly very qualified and intelligent and deserve the position that they have way more than anything he deserves in life. He's threatened, you know?
Yeah,
He's
100%.
jealous. He's envious. It's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that embarrassment has so much just raw hate and bitterness behind it that it is not funny, despite him dancing to ladies' night. It's very dangerous.
Where it's like, this is a literal powder keg that just gets stuffed more and more and more with time because of not wanting to deal with like the core of why those feelings even started.
And no one calling him out. People are treating him like a joke. And then you've got another subset of the internet that's like, fuck yes, send us more of that fanfic that you wrote, because it really does sound like, I think you nailed it with penthouse letters. It's so bizarre.
And like even telling, I think it was in the Village Voice interview being like, yeah, I like to go to dance classes because it shows you what women's bodies are for. And he confirms to the interviewer, sex. And it's like, that's what you think we are, despite the talking, the existing, and I'm sure for a person whose literal life ethos is you are not better than anyone else, but no one else is better than you, to stand up to it. Like, not even that there was like an acrimonious relationship here. She literally was just a judge presiding over cases. And like his was one of her cases. Yeah.
It just happened to fall in her case. That's the thing too, with people like this. You can't have it both ways, dickhead. For women to only exist to have sex, but then at the same time, you're like, don't give women anything they want. They should just, you know, and the reason that they don't sleep with you is because XYZ. And it's like, but if our whole reason of existing was just to have sex, then we would have sex with anybody and everybody, including you. But that's not why we exist, you fuckface. Yeah. So you don't even have like a coherent argument.
No, I mean, and you're right. And I think he separates women in his writings, at least, between the dames, or the pretty young demonesses is another term he used, and then feminists, about whom he said, I do not lust after, I do not hate them, I despise them. So it's like, either you were something that he wanted to fuck and thought he could by going to the hip hop classes and, quote, inhaling the pheromones of these pretty young ladies.
Every woman in that hip hop class was like, fuck, he's back again this week. How do we get him out of this?
I just want to talk to any of the people that took a class with him. But like, that's exactly what it is. It's like, there's basically two buckets and you fall into one or you fall into the other. And the one bucket is kill them. And the other bucket is maybe I'll have sex with them, but if they've rejected me, they must be a feminist. Put them in the bucket and I'll kill them too.
Yeah. Known for her humility, decisiveness, and empathy, Judge Salas presided over hundreds of civil and criminal cases at any given time. Her docket has included cases involving white-collar crime, gang violence, and sexual abuse by law enforcement, and high-profile defendants like Teresa and Joe of the Real Housewives of New Jersey fame. Salas also co-founded the Pretrial Opportunity Program, or POP, with Judge Catherine Hayden, offering alternatives to incarceration for nonviolent drug offenders. The program, one of few of its kind in the federal system, emphasizes personal accountability, rehabilitation, and support. Salas called it her proudest professional accomplishment.
Those pretrial diversion programs are so important too. And she physically, they meet with the defendants and talk with them about how, and to have a judge literally like step down from the bench and speak eye to eye with you, I think is meaningful.
Oh yeah, very powerful. And when you are also the type of person that emphasizes personal accountability, and then you've got Den Hollander that takes zero personal accountability, there's going to be a lot of butting of heads there.
It's like, it's women. It's their fault. It's everybody else's fault but mine. And it's like, maybe sit down and look in the mirror. And it's like, no, you're part of the system.
Esther met her husband, Mark Anderl, while she was interning in law school, and he was a prosecutor. They married and shared a strong legal and personal partnership. Their son, Daniel Mark Anderl, was born in 2000. A bright, compassionate young man with a strong sense of justice, Daniel aspired to follow in his parents' footsteps and become a lawyer. He attended the Catholic University of America, where he was known for his integrity and warmth.
I think Judge Salas joked, like, go be a doctor. Don't do that. Don't do what we did. But she's like, he wanted to help people, you know?
You can help him in other ways. I'm telling you, every person I've known that has been an attorney is like, don't become an attorney.
Don't do it unless you really
we
want
need
to.
them. So, you know, we want good people like her to become them, and then judges.
Sinisterhood will be right back.
This episode of Sinisterhood is brought to you by Graza. Graza is our olive oil of choice. It's top-notch, extra virgin olive oil at an affordable, everyday price, and we couldn't love it more.
God, I love this stuff. Graza is always fresh, never blended, and made from one kind of olive from one place, the Picual olive from Jaén, Spain, where over half the world's olive oil is produced.
We got to go to Jaén just so we can say thank you to the Picual olives because they're giving us the best olive oil we've ever had.
I'm like, let me suck that oil out of them olives. Let me suck it. Ma'am.
Right from the teat. Graza also offers 3 unique varieties for any cooking task. You've got Frizzle. This is their newest blend with an impressive 490 degrees Fahrenheit smoke point. It's perfect for frying, crisping, or grilling. The summer is here. Everybody's out grilling. This is perfect for that. You've also got Sizzle at 410 degrees Fahrenheit. This is your everyday hero for roasting, marinating, and sauteing. And to finish it off, you got Drizzle, a bold, punchy finishing oil that elevates your salads, breads, avocado toast, perhaps even a scoop of ice cream.
Anything. Talk about convenience, too. Graza comes in these super fun squeezy bottles as well as spray bottles. Forget the messy tins or drippy sprouts. You just aim, squeeze, and you're ready to go. I recently expanded my Graza offering. In addition to my drizzle, which I put on, I do feta with like the drizzled olive oil and some seasoning, but I also got the spray bottle to cook with as well. It's fantastic. I love it so much. Squeeze, spray, anything I need, I'm going to Graza.
Graza's got you covered.
Hell yeah.
You will get 10% off your first order of any olive oil on their site, but we wholeheartedly recommend the trio. That's all 3 squeezy bottles, Sizzle, Frizzle, and Drizzle. So you're set for every style of cooking.
So head to graza.co and use Creepy to get 10% off of Trio, which includes Sizzle, Frizzle, and Drizzle, and get to cooking your next chef quality meal.
By early July of 2020, Den Hollander was retired from his law practice, terminally ill and more radicalized than ever. He decided it was time to set the violent plans detailed in his online ramblings into motion. Armed with a gun, a disguise, and one of many grudges, Den Hollander arrived at a train station in San Bernardino, California on July 7th and rented a car. He had shaved his head, unpacked his FedEx uniform, and planned to find Mark Angelucci. A respected attorney and vice president of the National Coalition for Men, Mark was fresh off his successful argument in federal court that the male-only draft registration was unconstitutional. This was a victory that Roy Den Hollander had long coveted for himself. Between July 7th and 10th, Den Hollander stalked Mark in Cedar Pines Park, a remote forested town nestled in the San Bernardino Mountains. Locals would later say they saw a suspicious man in the area, wearing a delivery uniform and loitering near Mark's home. On Saturday, July 11th, Den Hollander made his move. He arrived at Mark's doorstep disguised as a FedEx driver, holding a fake package in his hands. Mark, who was at home with friends, came to the door. At point-blank range, Den Hollander shot him. One of Mark's friends ran out, trying to help, but by the time first responders arrived, Mark was already gone. The gunman had vanished. No immediate suspect was identified. After killing Mark, Den Hollander drove away and boarded a train out of California from Union Station in Los Angeles. Once back in New Jersey, he began surveilling Judge Salas's home in North Brunswick, using information he obtained online from publicly available sources. Den Hollander parked near her street, where he took detailed notes about her schedule, her routine, and her family. He tracked the times when her husbands left for work. He also marked the comings and goings of her son, Daniel. So what do we think about part 1?
Well, Mark Angelucci, man, what you just answer your door.
Yeah.
And these type of cases always get me, much like the Kaufman County DA murders, where it's like he was just doing his job.
Mm-hmm.
And he won.
He wasn't even doing his job. He was
Yeah.
just at home with friends, you know?
Yeah, and he won too. I mean, he did a good job. And the fact that he won where this loser, quite literally, Roy Den Hollander, I looked at every case he filed and it was just a parade of failures. Like he was a failure at everything in his life. And I hope with our coverage and with further coverage of it, he will also fail at cementing this legacy as some like amazing vigilante when he's a coward. You know, he didn't say, Mark, meet me in the park and I'll fight you. We'll have a duel face to face. He snuck up on him in a disguise. It's insidious. It's sick. He stalked him for 4 days, you know, and like waited like a creepy little nobody in the corner. Like I said, I'm not saying you need to go like slap somebody with a glove and say like, meet me for a duel. But for all of his big talk and his manifesto, like at the end of it, you snuck in like a coward and you waited until he was unarmed and was weak.
You blindsided him.
Yeah.
It was not a quote fair fight. It shouldn't have been a fight at all, and it was also a one-sided fight. You know, I mean, Mark's not out there. He's Don Drapering him. I don't think about you at all, you know?
Yeah, it's like, oh, that guy had a similar case. Well, it sucked and it was wrong, so I filed it the right way. Like, that's literally what I'm supposed to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's
scary. It's, and we'll talk about it in part 2, but the fact that he could find all of this information about where these people lived online is also very scary.
Yeah, and can act on it with almost seemingly no oversight. But, you know, knowing what we know about him ringing this man's doorbell and shooting him at point blank range, the laughter in the Colbert Report coverage or calling him Bachelor of the Year and stuff like that, I think it just really drives home the point that when people are speaking like this, we have to take them seriously. Like we have, like, again, it's like you're standing under the umbrella with terrorists. Like he called himself a terrorist in his writings. You know, he said terrorism is violence that avoids combat and it's used to bring about social change. And like he said, my objective is to go down fighting. I want to fight my enemies. The sooner I end up in the 8th circle, the happier I'll be. Like when things like this are being shared, and I think there should be some onus on, now granted he had his own website, but his own website was not the only place this information and this type of thing was being disseminated. So I think there is onus on TikTok, Meta, whatever, and it's like, it's free speech.
Media.
And the media in general. And to understandably say, like, we're not, like Neil Cavuto, to his credit at least, was like, you're kind of, in 2008, as he let him on his show though, was like, you're kind of an angry guy, but kind of said it like, okay, buddy.
Yeah.
All right. And then at the end he said, thanks, my friend. let me know how this thing goes. So it's like, I think we have to be intolerant to intolerable and violent mindsets. And I think this, where you are calling for an eradication of a gender, or like literally, I mean, he's saying like, we got to kill these feminazis or whatever. When people are saying that, you have to take them seriously.
Yeah.
Like talks of annihilation are not often like something to just laugh off.
Yeah. And not only take them seriously, but don't give them a platform to spew their hateful rhetoric.
Yeah, no, truly. I mean, and I, again, like, I don't want to completely demonize the Colbert Report, because I think satire is a really valuable way to shine lights on things like this. But perhaps investigating the target of your satire, I'm sure there's plenty of other men's rights advocates that they probably could have also, now would the ones that they found also say unhinged things like, I don't know why I fight all these lawsuits, maybe I'm a Libra, or like, and like they joke around about in the cut, he's asked some question and then he kind of gets off on this tangent about he's like, she was a prostitute. My ex-wife was a prostitute and she was a sex slave to a Chechen warlord or whatever, just saying this weird stuff. And the edit is kind of like, And like the voiceover's like, oh, nope, not that. So it's like we hear that you hear that he's crazy.
Yeah.
And then he says 100,000 guys with guns should meet me in DC. Let's go, boys.
This is also not the first time you've met him.
Yeah.
You've, spoken to him for weeks to get him on the show. You've met him beforehand and everything. So you've had a lot of interactions to get a good idea of what this guy is all about.
And it makes you scrutinize. And that's why I appreciate Cassie J, what she did, where she's like taking seriously these things and sitting down in that Red Pill documentary to kind of go like, let me hear you out, because maybe I don't know another side of it. And versus kind of going, let's all like make fun of this guy who says he's going to bring a gun to school. Exactly. And it's like, that's the guy that's going to bring a gun to school.
That's the first thing I thought of when it was like, oh, we're treating him like a joke, blah, 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 is how many students were, nobody took them seriously until they showed up with a gun and they wanted to be taken seriously. So they kind of were like, well, I'm going to prove to them how serious I am.
Yeah. And I mean, I think also just when they say it out loud, which Roy Den Hollander said, things begin to change when individual men start taking out those specific persons responsible for destroying their lives before committing suicide, when every life destroyed by a lying tongue is repaid with another destroyed by a gun. Like, people that type these things should go on lists. They should be banned from Facebook. Like, I think when we're moving with AI, you're going to have such an incredible amount of oversight that I think hopefully people like this will not go under the radar. And I hope with AI what do you like if you go into Grok or Chat GPT or whatever and want to say like, hey, isn't it true that all women are terrible? The fact that it would go, no, actually what you're saying, women get paid more than men. They actually don't.
Nova would never. She'd be like, what is this? Get out of here.
Or it would be like, yes, tell me more about your things. Secretly calls the FBI. Right. But yeah, so we'll see in part 2 kind of the aftermath of this and how it has extended literally up until like there might be breaking news for us to add to next week's episode. So stay tuned.
Stay tuned indeed.
This episode of Sinisterhood is made possible with the help of our amazing patrons.
If you're interested in supporting the show, consider joining our Patreon. You'll get access to ad-free regular episodes, weekly bonus content, you're able to vote on episode topics, join our monthly live streams, and more.
Keep it creepy.
Mwahaha.